I'm going to show you what settings you need for your classroom. So sign into your Zoom account, then go to settings. In settings, go to the meeting setting. Here you want to disable the waiting room because otherwise you'll have to allow people in one at a time. By default, your meetings would have a passcode, and that passcode makes it secure. The older issues of Zoom, where the unauthorized people were entering without a password, that issue has been resolved. And then there are a couple of things that you can do. You can set your video to be off, host video to be off, and participant video to be off, which means that by default you will not be able to see the other people. Their video will not be on, and your video will also not be on. Don't allow people to join before the host, so disable this. And mute participants on entry, turn this on so that whenever someone joins they don't disturb your meeting. So this doesn't mean that they cannot unmute themselves. They can unmute themselves, but by default they'll be muted. Again, now who can share their screen? Here you can change it. You can say host only. Okay. So that way others don't start sharing your screen. The students don't start sharing their screen. And there's also annotations. Allow hosts and participants to use annotations tool to add information on shared screen. So this you want disabled because by accident students will be able to students will write something on the screen and that will remain on your screen. So you want this to be off. And you can use a whiteboard. I like to use PowerPoint's blank slides as whiteboard, so I usually don't use whiteboard. That's up to you. And then during screen sharing, the person who's sharing can allow others to control their shared content. This you can turn it off. Okay, so that by mistake others you don't allow others to control your content. These other settings, most of these you don't need. Okay, and when you want to schedule a meeting, all you need to do is you go to meetings and you can say schedule a new meeting, and there are a bunch of options here. You can name your meetings. For example, this could be your class name. Then you can have the timing for the meeting. You can also make it a recurring meeting, so it can be weekly. For example, usually the only good option that you have here is weekly or daily. So for weekly meetings, then you'll have to set 2 or 3 different meetings depending on how many sessions a week you have. I don't recommend using this registration option on, because then your students will have to give their email ID to Zoom. So you don't need this. And there will be a passcode for the meeting. This is auto generated. You can type in this, you can use another passcode also. But you can just simply use this passcode. And I don't recommend using the waiting room, because then you will have to allow each participant in. So video by default, keep it off. Allow audio to be both telephone and computer, and mute participants on entry. So you check this, and do not enable them to join before host. You can use this option of record meetings automatically, uh, yeah, but you can choose not to use it either. So that's really up to you. Okay. And once you save it, your meeting will be scheduled. And basically what you will get after that is an email invitation that you can give to anyone. The basic thing that you need is this URL. So you copy this URL, and this URL has the password encrypted password embedded in it. So here you can see the password. This was what was set, but this password is actually not available directly in the URL. It is embedded in an encrypted form. This link, if you send to someone, they will be able to join your meeting by default. They will not need any other settings. They don't need the password separately. If you just give this number here, then this is the meeting ID, which is also shown here. And if they just have the meeting ID, then they need the password separately. Then this encrypted password will not work. They will need this particular password. So once this is done, your meeting is set. And in the next video, I will show you what to do during the meeting.